it doesn't matter where you're starting. It can feel very, especially as a woman, very like imposter syndrome and, oh, I could never, I can't own 250 properties. I don't have that much money. Like I didn't have any money when I started. I was making $37,000 a year. So the chances that you are starting ahead of me are pretty good. So, it's really just baby steps and putting one foot in front of the other. So if I have any advice for other women of things that I've learned is it doesn't matter where you start. You can get to that. I mean, 250 sounds like, oh my God, that's an unattainable thing. You can absolutely do it. Just baby steps.
So good. It's so inspiring. Hello, my extraordinary women friends. In today's episode, we're going to dive into the dynamic world of real estate investment, a realm that I've always found to be fascinating for building wealth. Our guest today, Avery Carl, has taken this interest to extraordinary heights. From embarking on her real estate adventure with no prior property ownership experience, Avery has catapulted herself into the echelons of real estate magnates, amassing a staggering portfolio of over 250 properties. This impressive collection spans short-term rentals, long-term leases, and multifamily apartment buildings, showcasing her versatility and acumen in the field. Beyond her personal achievements, Avery has been instrumental in facilitating over $2.5 billion in transactions for cash-flowing short-term and vacation rentals across the United States, empowering investors to unlock the potential of real estate. Navigating the real estate investing landscape as a female business owner and team leader presents its own set of challenges. Yet Avery has not only thrived, but also become a beacon of inspiration and guidance for female entrepreneurs in industries traditionally dominated by men. Her insights are invaluable, especially for those of you looking to break the stereotype and make your mark. In our conversation today, we explore the nuances of real estate investing, debunking common misconceptions and uncovering the strategies that have propelled Avery to success. We discuss the importance of education in real estate and how Avery's company leverages this approach to transform its clients' investment journeys and the resilience required to overcome setbacks in this competitive industry. For anyone intrigued by the potential of real estate to create wealth, or for female entrepreneurs navigating their path in male-dominated fields, Avery's story is a testament to what's possible with the right mindset, strategies, and determination. Let's meet Avery Carl. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Avery. Nice to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to, I love real estate, so I'm looking forward to this conversation and hearing really about what you built. You've really made an impressive pathway for yourself. And let's start with your story, because you went from this rookie with no property management, real estate experience at all, right? And to becoming a real estate mogul who has a portfolio of over 250 properties. So tell us more about how you went from, the rookie to what you do today.
Oh, blood, sweat, and tears. But yeah, so I had what I thought was my dream job when I started it. Anyway, when I ended it, I did not think so. As a marketing manager on the business side of music in Nashville. I had played professionally as a guitar player in sloppy punk rock bands and rockabilly bands for 4 or 5 years because I graduated. Cool. Yeah, it was fun. But I graduated undergrad at like the worst time ever in spring of 2009. So there were just no jobs. So I bartended, kept playing music, and kind of looked at it as a time to just enjoy life and not have to be working towards something. Then once the job market swung back around, went back and got my master's. But my husband and I were moving from New York City to Nashville, and our real estate agent at the time was really trying to get us to buy in this super hip, fast appreciating part of Nashville called East Nashville. And we were like, no, we're moving from Brooklyn to Tennessee. We want no neighbors. We're done with neighbors. So we bought something way out in the country. But later we kind of came back to that thought of she was saying that her big selling point on East Nashville was that it was appreciating just really, really fast. And we thought, well, maybe if we buy one of those things and put a renter in it, so we're not having to pay the mortgage, that when our future kids go to college in 25 years, that maybe we can just sell that and pay for their college out of that appreciation and not have to cut into our income. And thought we were these like great geniuses. Totally stupid reason to buy real estate, by the way. But we did. We went and bought
It
one of
doesn't
those.
sound so bad.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know what we were doing. And we just bought a house, and it happened to be a really good deal. We didn't know it at the time. Um, but we were able to cash flow. It was a long-term rental. We were making about $1,000 over the mortgage every month. So when we got
Mhm.
that first or second rent check, we were like, man, that's kind of what I'm making after all the deductions, because the music business doesn't pay anything because it's so glamorous. There's always somebody who will do it for free. And I was like, man, we're making the same amount of money as my paycheck without doing anything. We need to do
Right.
some more of this. Let's go buy some more. So then we started actually educating ourselves on real estate investing. And we had just enough money for one more down payment on one single family home. And we said, well, what can we buy that's going to make us the most amount of money the fastest so we can go buy more? And so we landed on short-term rentals. This is in 2015. So we've been doing it almost a
Wow.
decade now. And we didn't want to do it in Nashville because Nashville was already kind of showing the signs of being kind of anti short-term rental. And so we said, well, where can we buy something that's the normal thing for people to rent a privately owned home instead of a hotel? And so we bought something 3 hours east of Nashville in the Smoky Mountains, where everybody that goes there, they rent cabins to stay in.
Okay.
And we got into self-managing our vacation rentals because when we were buying this property, we found that all the property management companies, their standard at the time was 40% of your gross income.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were like, man, we can't afford that. We need that 40% so we can go buy more properties. So we said, there's got to be a way with Airbnb and Verbo to just do this remotely without
Mhm.
back. There's tons of courses and gurus and things on it now, but back then there were not. And so we just kind of figured out our systems and processes to be able to do it remotely.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's just did really well right out of the gate. So then we just started snowballing the income from these two properties that we had into more properties. And, long story short, we scaled to about 5 of those short-term rentals in the Smokies in about 18 months. And then over the course of 5.5 years, we're able to scale, add other types of properties. So now we've got 8 vacation rentals in different markets. We've got long-term multifamily, long-term single family, a little bit of everything. And then I also have the short-term shop, which is a nationwide real estate team, real estate agents. And we work only with short-term rental investors. So we've helped over 5,000 investors over the past few years buy and sell short-term rentals in different vacation markets. And that's me.
That's exciting. That's so cool. It's a great story. And I love that you're really, I mean, it's the vision of, starting with just a few, but then just and stepping into following it, right? Following what you're like, oh, this is working for us. So it took courage to step into that next step, right? It took courage to say, okay, let's keep doing this. Talk a little bit about that courage that you had to really tap into.
Well, I don't know if it was necessarily courage so much as just wanting to do the alternative less. So during the time, I think when we bought our second short-term rental, that was when I quit my corporate job and started the short-term shop. Um, and I found over the course of 3 corporate jobs that I am just not a good employee. I'm just not. And then when I started thinking about it deeper, I'm like, well, you were raised by someone. My dad owns his own business. My mom's a stay-at-home mom. Both sets of grandparents own their own businesses. So I didn't
Cool.
really have a role model who worked in a corporate job for someone else their whole lives. I just thought that's what I was supposed to do. And then I got in it and I hated it. And I had just gotten passed over for what was probably going to be the only available promotion for, the next 5 to maybe even 10 years. It was a small company, small publishing company. And I was like, man, okay, well, I guess now I'm going to sit in this job that I hate. And she just told me that basically that I'm an idiot. My boss was a female. She just basically told me that I'm an idiot and not good enough to do this $50,000 job that I didn't get. And so I was like, this is not for me, man. And so that second short-term rental that we got, it was very emotional because it was like, we got to get this and get it up and rolling so I can get out of this other job that I hate. And so really to put it bluntly and kind of in a funny way, it was fueled by hatred of working for someone else more so than courage.
Yeah, so following that and stepping into it, so tell us more about, this the whole concept of short term rentals and finding the right locations and finding. You started to touch on that a little bit, but give us a little bit of insights into that. Somebody listening and thinking, "Oh gosh, this would be amazing." What advice would you give them around that?
So for me, and the cool thing about real estate is there's no wrong way to do it, but there's easier ways and ways that have less friction and ways that you're going to have a lower chance of getting told you can't do it somewhere down
Hmm.
the road. So this is the way that
Hmm.
I do it. I only buy vacation rentals. So short-term rentals as a whole is, anything less than 30 days. Vacation rentals are in vacation markets where there's not a lot of hotel space or hotel presence at all. These are areas where it's like the normal thing for people when they go there to rent a cabin if it's a mountain market, a condo, a beach house if it's a beach market, lake house, things like that. So I focus on those true mature vacation areas. I like
Hmm.
regional drivable ones. So ones where the majority of the tourism that's coming in is driving and not
Hmm.
flying,
Hmm.
because they are both accessible and that makes them a little more affordable. If you're not having to fly, I just booked flights for myself, my husband, and our two small kids to New York. And I mean, it's like $3,500. It cost me, a $200 tank of gas to drive up from here in Florida to like the Smoky Mountains or something like that. So, because they're a little more accessible and affordable to get to, just more affordable vacation. Like it's always going to be cheaper to drive to Panama City Beach than it's going to be to fly to Mexico to go to the beach.
Right. Right.
So we focus on those types of areas.
Cool.
And
Good advice.
yeah, there's the least amount of anti short-term rental regulation in these types of areas where the entire economy is pretty much dependent on the tourism. There's nowhere for the tourists to stay other than in vacation rentals. So it's very safe in terms of regulations.
Cool. Yeah, and the whole regulation thing, I know in my community, there's regulations around that. So you have to watch what you're doing with that and pay
Mhm.
attention to which types of communities. What about the real estate market values? Like, the higher, certain regions are going to be higher, um, you know, square per square footage, or I mean, how do you look at it through that lens?
So it just depends on what the potential income is. And
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of data sources where you can find that now. Again, that didn't exist back when we started. So we just started super small. But now there's AirDNA, there's Rabu, there's a lot of different data sources where you can figure out what, say a 4-bedroom or a 5-bedroom in certain markets will do. So it just kind of depends on in some like in almost every market, studio and 1-bedroom properties are very, very, I would say, the least likely to get, quote, saturated, and they have the highest occupancy rate. So I've got some clients that could buy 105 bedrooms if they wanted to, but they own 101-bedroom properties because they like how booked they are. They like um, how it's the guests are easy because it's
Yeah,
typically
I was
two
thinking
people.
that they're probably corporate, right?
For when it's just two people, it's usually just like um, just a couple, and it's they have the highest occupancy rate. But a lot of times the bigger properties, again depending on which market you're in, they will have just a much higher return on investment
Mm-hmm.
because people need, especially when you're getting into like the 5-6 bedroom range, those are going to book much more in advance because typically when you've got that many people coming together, they've got to do some figuring out and figuring out when everyone can go, and they book further in advance, higher price per night, but they'll have a lower occupancy rate. So you just kind of have to decide what's most important to you. I've got everything from a 0-bedroom studio cabin to a 6-bedroom beach house. So just
Mm-hmm.
depends on the market. And it just depends. Like there are markets where you can go spend, like the one that I live in. I live in the 30A area of Florida. It's right between Destin and Panama City Beach.
Mm-hmm.
There are properties that you can get for several $1,000,000 that will make six, seven, $800,000 a year. So you kind of have to just make sure that you're working through the analysis
You have to do the
very
math.
thoroughly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. 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 So, what are some of the common misconceptions about investing in real estate?
Oh, I mean, everybody has some friend with some uncle that had a bad experience investing in real estate. But what I found is what the people that have negative things to say about investing in real estate, like, oh, the tenants are going to tear up your house, which can happen, or uh, if we're talking about vacation rentals, like, is somebody going to throw a party in there? I've never had a party. I've owned these things for 10 years. I've got 8 of them. We've never had anybody throw an unauthorized party. So all the people that say things like that are people that don't own real estate. If you look at truly the type of people who are commenting, making these types of comments, I mean, there's definitely things happen. I've had a 6-unit apartment building catch on fire. I've had the roof blew off one of my short-term rentals the other
Mm,
day, actually in Tennessee. And once you get to a certain point, when you have 1 or 2 properties, that can seem very devastating. And oh my God,
right.
that's half my income. But if you keep just putting one foot in front of the other and scaling and scaling and scaling, those problems, like if the roof had blown off one of my properties when I had 2, I would have had anxiety for days. I wouldn't have slept. But last week, we made a couple phone calls. We wrote a check. We went back to what we were doing, and it was
Yeah.
fixed. New roof
Yeah.
within a few days. So,
Okay.
if as time goes on and the more experience you get, problems just become a slight amount of time that you're spending on it and a check, and
Yeah.
not so much like this big, huge, anxiety-ridden week of like, oh my God, I can't sleep. My whole life is ruined because the roof blew off this house. So, um, common misconceptions are just like your property is going to be torn up all the time. It does happen. I've got 250 properties. I've had 1 fire and 1 roof blow off. Well, I have had 1 get hit by a tornado, but the roof didn't blow off. So, a decade worth of owning properties, like, the probability I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's good. So on 250 properties in your portfolio, what's that mix? Is it from the perspective of vacation to I know you own multiple types of types of properties.
Sorry, I'm getting over the flu. Um, so I've got 8 vacation rentals across 4 markets. So they're in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. I've got one in Destin, Florida, 30A, Florida, and the Forgotten Coast, Cape
Mm-hmm.
Sandblast, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest are we've got kind of 3 machines rolling at all times. We've got the vacation rental machine, we've got our multifamily apartment building machine, and then we've got our single family long-term rental machine. And
Okay.
I think we have right now about 100 of maybe 150 of our units are apartment buildings, and the rest are single family and duplex long terms.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a lot of management of having people in and out of your properties, and so do you have a team of people really helping support that?
Yeah, yeah. So the way we do it is we self-manage our vacation rentals because
Mm-hmm.
we've got a VA who works for us full time for our entire real estate portfolio, but part of his job is to help us answer guest questions and things, kind of concierge with the short-term rentals. So we self-manage, and what that means is we don't use a property manager
Mm-hmm.
because the average rate for property management for short-term rentals is 25% of your gross. And to put that in perspective, so for our 8, we'd be paying someone $250,000 for a job that an offshore VA can do for 30 grand
Yeah.
with our oversight. So I'd rather keep that 220,000 and use that for another down payment. So we will always probably self-manage those. When it comes to our long-term rentals in our apartment buildings, depending on in each city that they're
Mm-hmm.
in, which
Mm-hmm.
there's 3, uh,
Okay.
we have different property managers. One of them, we've got 2 property managers in the same city because it's different sides of the city and they don't
Mm-hmm.
cover certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest, all of our long terms are on property managers because it's just easier. And you would
Yeah.
think, well, like, oh, the short term rentals are much harder to self manage. Why do you do that? But when you think about it, short term rentals are easy. It's just answering some questions, when people have them. Basically, the equivalent of sending text messages. If something breaks, you call a handyman to come fix it. With long terms, you've got to be there, open the door to show the property to somebody who might want to live there. You've got to do background checks. You've got to do employment checks. You have to do all these things
Mm-hmm.
that you don't have to do with short term. So I think people kind of have things backwards about which one is more work.
Yeah.
And with the long terms, it's 10%. You're only making like $500 a door anyway, so you're paying somebody $50 to deal with all that a month.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's good. That's great insights around that. And so talk a little bit about your educational part of your company where you're teaching and you're talking about this work. How did that start? And um, just how did that come about?
So when I first started the short term shop, it was just me. It started with friends of ours saying, "You're making how much on that cabin in the Smokies? Help me buy one. Teach me how to manage it the way you're managing it." So then it started being friends of friends, and it started being true, clients that we
Yeah.
didn't know. And so what we do is we know that there's a lot of questions and a lot of fear with new investors who want to buy vacation rentals around management. And there's tons of courses that you can go buy for $10,000, $15,000, $5,000, several thousand. And what we do is if you buy a house with us, we teach you all that stuff for free while you're under contract. So you can use that 5, 10, 15,000, depending on who you're buying from, towards your down payment. So instead of having to spend a bunch of money on your down payment and then go buy a $10,000 course, just work with us. We make our money on the real estate commission. You use your money for the down payment, and we'll make sure that you're so successful with it that you come back and buy with us in another market.
I love it. I totally love it. And what does it teach? What do you teach in the mix of it? What's the
So, I
course?
mean, basically end to end how to manage your short-term rentals. So that's everything from how to set up your listings on Airbnb and Verbo to how to use the property management software and the dynamic pricing tools that you'll need to make sure you're optimizing your listing. We've got all the people you need, recommendations. They're not in-house. We give you recommendations for all the boots on the ground that you'll need, all the vendors that you need, cleaners, handymen, HVAC technicians, roofers, anybody you need, we've got them for you. Um, all the way down to like helping you make sure when you're ready to hit that launch button that everything is what it needs to be. And then we also have like a support community on Facebook where we're all of our past clients have us available to them, to answer questions and things like that. And all of our agents are short-term rental investors also. So between all of us, I've got my 250 doors. There's another 150 on the team.
Mhm.
So all of our agents not only are experts at just helping people buy short-term rentals and sell short-term rentals, but they all own their own as well.
Cool. So smart. So smart. I love this. And what have been some of your biggest lessons through this journey?
I'm trying to think of a positive lesson. Um, Biggest lessons is just that you can do it. It doesn't matter where you're starting. It can feel very, especially as a woman, very like imposter syndrome and oh, I could never I can't own 250 properties. I don't have that much money. Like I didn't have any money when I started. I was making $37,000 a year. So the chances that you are starting ahead of me are pretty good. So, it's really just baby steps and putting one foot in front of the other. So if I have any advice for other women of things that I've learned is it doesn't matter where you start. You can get to that. I mean, 250 sounds like, oh my God, that's an unattainable thing. You can absolutely do it. Just baby steps.
So good. It's so inspiring. So where can people learn more about you and your work?
Instagram and YouTube at the short term shop. We've got tons of videos on YouTube about how to do stuff. We've got a 10 episode mini series on every single market that we operate in. So if you're like, oh, I'm really interested in Myrtle Beach, where do I start? We've got 10 episodes on that. Instagram, I'm on there every day. I actually do check that. Not a big Facebook person, but Instagram, I do check myself. We do have a big Facebook group, same title as my book. It's called Short Term Rental, Long Term Wealth. I think that's plenty of places to find me.
Cool. That's excellent. And the final question I always close with are what are three pearls of wisdom you'd love to share with us today?
Oh, three pearls of wisdom. I would say one big one that's been um kind of on my mind recently is that nothing lasts forever.
Hmm.
So, during the huge real estate boom in 22, my husband and I had a very like, this is not going to last forever mindset. And so all the money we made in real estate sales went back into buying more real estate. And then now, 2023 was the lowest number of houses were sold in 2023 since like back in 2011.
Hmm.
So, that would be considered a crash, even though the prices didn't crash like a lot of people were expecting, the numbers did. And, this too, much slower time, but it's also not going to last forever. So treat every phase like it's not going to last forever, whether it's good or bad. We don't
Mhm.
have to really worry about anything because we were smart with the boom money and
Mhm. Mhm.
investing it into real estate.
Right.
Um, so treat everything like it's not going to last forever, whether it's good or bad. I would say another pearl of wisdom is kind of calling back to what I said earlier about like, you can do it. You just
Mhm.
have to take the baby steps and keep going. And it gets hard and it sucks and you want to quit and think it's too hard, but just keep going. The key to succeeding is just not quitting. That's literally it.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
not quitting. And then third pearl of wisdom, um, hmm, you need to make sure that you sleep enough. Get up early, but get enough sleep.
Oh, so good. I love it. I love it. Avery, thank you for sharing your story. It's really inspiring, and it's really inspiring what you've built. And, I think that's going to inspire a lot of people tuning in today. So
Well,
thank you so much.
thank you so much for having me.